There was an interesting article put out, more of a blog type article, that was put out on the internet about stunt hacking, and I guess you wanted to tee this one up, right, Manny?
Yeah. So again, I think this one's just sort of to throw it out there and see about some discussion. But basically, it's about this thing called stunt hacking, and which is basically creating this media frenzy around some about some vulnerability for the sake of just creating the frenzy, or for basically increasing name recognition. If you're the researcher involved in actually looking at this, then my name's out there, I found it, now I'm
trying to make a name for themselves or for their company that they might represent so that they can get more business. And then you've got all these people who probably pile onto that, say, hey, we've got a new appliance that can detect this new whatchamadoozit vulnerability and protect you from it. So you get all these other people that kind of pile on to the hype. And I guess, I think we do a fairly good job, I'm going to say, about not hyping things, or at least like in our initial story with Logjam, we kind of told you the title of the story said, the world's ending, HTTPS web servers, tens of thousands vulnerable. But we're like, hey, it's not really that bad. The sky is not falling here. So we try to give you some grounding. But there are a lot of people, especially media, I think, that tend to misinterpret or maybe just try to make things seem bigger than they are. And I'm not really crazy about this whole naming of vulnerabilities like shell shock and logjam and heartbleed.
But I mean, is any PR good PR? I mean, without some of those names, is this security world that we work in nearly as relevant? I mean, you could look at it the other way. If shell shock gets headlines, maybe people know what we're doing and know what to go patch. So I think
that's a decent counterpoint.
Yeah.
However, they're probably not going to patch it themselves. They're going to ask somebody who's more of a security vendor to understand.
And say, but in a way, it's bringing some eyes onto something that, only the nerds typically would know about. And maybe now if it's a headline in the New York Times, even if it's on page 4, maybe it gets a little more awareness to it. But I still think you're right, that the hype factor and the way sometimes, the article kind of said that people almost be hired for this, like make us some press on, go out and get something that we know you can get into it, and then we'll release the press release. Yeah, that's kind of,
unscrupulous.
Right. Good one.
And I also don't like the fake outrage that sometimes you see. Like the security researcher will say, can you believe that they made such a stupid mistake when they wrote this code or something? I'm like, come on, people make mistakes.
It's the bash shell. How could you violate the bash shell?
Yeah, everybody uses this. What are you, nuts? How could you make such a big mistake? But people make mistakes.
Right.
If we didn't, then,
Yeah, and one of the points that they made, which I totally agree with, is that a lot of what he was trying to say was that the research that goes into figuring out what's going on, sometimes there is actually some good research behind that. Very good research. But unfortunately, that hype takes over, and that research that was done, the real good stuff, just gets sort of buried in the background, and it all becomes about the hype, the name, and so that's what gets glorified, and then the poor research and the good stuff just gets sort of tucked away. Right. And that's unfortunate.
And a lot of times it's not even the research, like the researcher who did the research and figured out this vulnerability sometimes isn't responsible for the hype. It's maybe who they work for, or just some media company that picks up on it and says, hey, the sky is falling, this new vulnerability here. And then you get phone calls from your family and friends. Hey, can I go on the internet today? I saw something. And they're like, no, it's not that bad. It's not a big deal. Because people don't understand, and it just gets overhyped.
And like you said earlier, I think, at least for this show, I think we do a pretty good job of trying to let folks know when there is this sense of hype around something. So, I mean, we'll try to do some research behind it ourselves to look and say, hey, look, they're glorifying this, but really, let's try to get down to the nuts and bolts.
We'll give details that a New York Times story won't give. We'll tell you what the specific overflow is, or what the string that's the culprit really is. You know, we're not just going to give you a sort of, you know, very uninformed view of what the media thinks the problem is.
Okay, so that was a good little discussion on that, and I think we've kind of danced around that topic before with a lot of these other vulnerabilities when they come out. So it's actually a good read. His blog article. So we'll put a link to that on the show notes.